grouping polynomials or parts of polynomials before you factor is a great way to deal with longer, more complicated problems. Here you notice we have four terms. We have x cubed plus 5x squared plus 3x plus 15. And the first thing we would want to look for is a greatest common factor for all four terms. But unfortunately, nothing other than 1 is going to divide all of these evenly. And there's really little opportunity or benefit, really, from factoring out a 1 from this problem. So instead, what we're going to do is group the parts together, where we look at the first two together and the last two together, and recognize now there is a common factor for just each group. We look at our first group. We have x cubed plus 5x squared, and if we go ahead and look at the greatest common factor for just those two, you notice that we can factor out x squared. And when we do, we're left with, well, x cubed divided by x squared is x, plus 5x squared divided by x squared is just 5. So we factor out an x squared, and we get x squared times x plus 5. Now for my second group. Here I have 3x plus 15. And one thing I want to point out to you right here is you notice this thing starts with a plus, a positive sign. That's going to help tell us what we actually want to factor out of this second pair. Because that is positive, when we factor out our amount from here, our greatest common factor, we're going to factor out a positive amount. So you look, 3x plus 15, 3 is the greatest common factor for that, and as I said, what we're going to want to factor out then specifically is plus 3. Typically we don't write that plus sign down when it's positive, but trust me, it helps with these problems, and you really want to get into the habit of doing that. So now when we factor out our 3, you notice 3x divided by 3 leaves me with just x, plus 15 divided by 3 is going to leave me with 5. And this is the nice part of doing this process. Do you notice now I have the exact same binomial factor in both of these problems? And as we saw in earlier videos, this means I can factor that out. So if I factor this x plus 5 out, since it is in both, I am going to be left with, well, from the first one, when I remove the x plus 5, I am left with just x squared. So I have x squared here. Now for the second one, when I remove the x plus 5, I am left with plus 3. And that's why putting that plus sign there helps. It's going to ensure that you get your binomial factor right in the end. So if we factor the original 4-term polynomial, we end up with x plus 5 times x squared plus 3. If you want to check your answer, just go ahead and multiply it out, and you should get back to the original problem.